how to escape the overthinking trap fast. We all think. It's part of being human. But when thinking turns into overthinking, it stops being helpful and starts becoming a heavy burden. Overthinking is like being caught in a mental maze where the same thoughts go in circles, leading nowhere, draining your energy and robbing you of peace. It may start with a small worry, something someone said, a mistake you made, or a decision you need to make, but instead of resolving it, your mind clings to it, analyzing every detail, imagining every possible outcome, and questioning every choice. The result? You feel stuck, anxious, and exhausted, and still no closer to a solution. Overthinking doesn't solve problems, it multiplies them. It creates fake scenarios, replays old memories, and convinces you that disaster is just around the corner. The more you try to think your way out, the deeper you sink. That's when overthinking becomes a trap, one that feels impossible to escape even when you're aware of it. The cruel part about overthinking is that it feels productive. It tricks you into believing that the more you think, the more control you'll have. But in reality, overthinking leads to mental paralysis, where action feels risky, rest feels impossible, and confidence disappears. It keeps your brain in survival mode, constantly alert and scanning for danger, even when none exists. Physically, your body begins to suffer too. Tight muscles, shallow breathing, fatigue, headaches. Emotionally, it drains your joy, creates unnecessary conflict in relationships, and keeps you from being fully present in your life. The more you overthink, the more you lose touch with the present moment and with yourself. You become your own harshest critic, constantly questioning if you're doing enough, saying the right thing, or making the right move. It's a cycle that feeds itself until you learn to break it. The good news is, no matter how long you've been trapped in the habit of overthinking, you can escape. The key is not to think more, but to feel more, ground more, and act more. Overthinking happens in the mind, but freedom begins in the body, in the breath, and in simple, mindful action. This journey isn't about shutting off your brain. It's about teaching it to rest, refocus, and return to be present. In the chapters ahead, you'll learn fast, effective ways to interrupt overthinking, calm your nervous system, and reconnect with clarity. You'll discover that your power lies not in controlling every outcome, but in learning how to pause, breathe, and trust yourself again. Because you don't need to think your way out of every problem. You need to live your way forward. And it all starts with recognizing that you are not your thoughts, and you are never truly stuck. Chapter 1. What exactly is overthinking? Overthinking is when your mind becomes stuck in a loop of repetitive, excessive, and often negative thoughts. It's not the same as being thoughtful or reflective. In fact, overthinking pretends to be helpful while quietly draining your energy, confidence, and peace. At its core, overthinking is a mental habit where you analyze everything. What happened, what didn't happen, what could happen, what might go wrong, how others might see you, and what you should have done differently. It often shows up as rumination, replaying the past over and over, or worry, imagining worst-case scenarios about the future. This mental overload creates confusion and emotional exhaustion, making it harder to make decisions or move forward. Overthinking might start with a single thought, "Did I say the wrong thing?" but quickly spirals into dozens of what-ifs and self-criticism until you feel mentally paralyzed. You're not just thinking too much. You're thinking in a way that traps you in fear, regret, and uncertainty. What makes overthinking so tricky is that it often feels responsible. You might think you're just trying to get it right or prepare for everything. But instead of finding clarity, your thoughts just circle around the same worries without leading to solutions. Overthinking doesn't solve problems, it multiplies them. It keeps your brain in high alert mode, flooding your body with stress hormones like cortisol and keeping your nervous system tense. Your sleep suffers. Your body feels restless. Your mind can't stop spinning, and emotionally you start to lose touch with joy, confidence, and peace. It's like trying to untangle a knot by pulling on every string at once. The more you try, the tighter it gets. That's why overthinking isn't just a habit. It's a mental trap. And the longer you stay in it, the more it feels like the only way to function. But here's the truth. Overthinking is not a personality trait, and it's not permanent. It's a learned response to fear, uncertainty, or emotional discomfort, and that means it can be unlearned. The first step is to understand that thinking harder doesn't lead to better answers. Thinking differently does. You must learn to step outside the thought loop, ground yourself in the present, and shift from mental noise to mindful awareness. This chapter lays the foundation for everything that follows, helping you recognize overthinking not just when it's loud and obvious, but even when it hides behind productivity, perfectionism, or self-doubt. Because once you name it, you can change it. And escaping the overthinking trap starts with this simple but powerful truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them. And that awareness is the beginning of freedom. Chapter 2. How Overthinking Affects Your Mind and Body. Overthinking doesn't just live in your head. It spreads through your entire body, quietly draining your mental energy, straining your emotions, and weakening your physical health. When your brain is caught in a loop of non-stop thinking, analyzing, and worrying, it sends signals to your nervous system that something is wrong, even if nothing dangerous is actually happening. This puts your body into fight-or-flight mode, activating stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Your muscles tense up, your breathing becomes shallow, your heart rate increases, and your digestive system slows down. Over time, this constant state of alert exhausts your system, leading to real physical symptoms like fatigue, headaches, chest tightness, stomach issues, and trouble sleeping. You may wake up tired even after a full night's sleep, feel on edge for no clear reason, or experience random aches that seem to have no medical explanation. These are all signs your body is responding to the pressure of your overactive mind. Mentally, overthinking wears down your ability to focus, solve problems, or feel confident in your decisions. It clutters your thoughts with what-ifs and worst-case scenarios, making it hard to tell the difference between real concerns and imagined fears. You might second-guess yourself constantly, replay conversations long after they're over, or freeze when it's time to make a choice, all because your brain is running in circles instead of moving forward. Emotionally, this leads to increased anxiety, self-doubt, frustration, and sometimes even sadness or numbness. Your mind becomes so busy trying to control the future or rewrite the past that you miss the peace of the present. The result is not just mental exhaustion, it's emotional and physical burnout. And the scariest part? It can become so familiar that you don't even realize how deeply it's affecting your well-being. The good news is that your brain is not broken. It's just overwhelmed. Overthinking is often your mind's attempt to protect you, to avoid failure or embarrassment, to plan for every possibility so you don't get hurt. But instead of protecting you, it traps you. Recognizing how this mental habit affects your entire system is the first powerful step toward freedom. Because once you see the full impact on your mood, your energy, your sleep, your relationships, you can start to make different choices. Rest, breathe, pause, step away from the spinning thoughts. Learn to interrupt the loop with grounding practices like movement, mindful breathing, or simply noticing your surroundings. These small shifts give your nervous system a break and send a new message to your body. I am safe now. I can let go. Escaping the overthinking trap isn't just about calming your mind. It's about healing your whole self and learning to live from a place of clarity, calm, and inner strength. Chapter 3. The Fastest Way Out. Interrupt the thought spiral. When you're caught in the grip of overthinking, it can feel like you're trapped in a whirlwind of thoughts, spinning faster and faster with no way out. But the truth is, the fastest and most effective way to escape is not by thinking your way through it. It's by breaking the cycle altogether. Overthinking is like a mental treadmill. Your thoughts are moving, but you're not getting anywhere. And the longer you stay on it, the more exhausted and stuck you feel. To break free, you need to interrupt the thought spiral. And the good news is you can do this in just a few seconds with simple intentional actions that shift your focus from your mind to the present moment. The moment you notice your thoughts, looping, replaying conversations, imagining worst-case scenarios, or obsessively analyzing a problem, you must act quickly. Don't wait until you figure it out. Instead, shift your brain out of overdrive with a grounding activity that brings you back to your body, your breath, and your surroundings. One of the fastest ways to interrupt the spiral is through physical movement. Stand up, stretch, walk, shake out your hands. Movement breaks the frozen feeling that often accompanies mental overload. Even just changing your posture or walking into another room signals to your brain that something different is happening. It wakes you up from the trance of overthinking. Cold water is another powerful interrupter. Splash your face, hold an ice cube, or rinse your hands under cool water. The sudden change in sensation brings your awareness out of your thoughts and into your body. Deep, focused breathing is equally powerful. Try the 4-7-8 method. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale slowly for 8. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system and tells your brain, we're safe now. You can slow down. Another technique is to speak out loud or write down exactly what you're thinking. Getting the thoughts out of your head helps break their power. You might say, "I'm stuck in a spiral right now and I don't need to solve everything this second." Sometimes, naming the spiral out loud is enough to loosen its grip. You can also interrupt with sensory grounding. Name 5 things you see, 4 you can touch, 3 you hear, 2 you smell, and 1 you taste. This 5-sense reset returns you to the now, which is where peace and clarity live. The spiral of overthinking feeds on momentum. So the faster you interrupt it, the less control it has. You don't have to wait until you feel ready to stop overthinking. You just have to take one small action to shift your state. Over time, these intentional interruptions build a new habit in your brain. Instead of spiraling, you learn to pause and pivot. You begin to take back your power from the thoughts that once ruled you. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate all thoughts. It's to stop them from running the show. When you interrupt the thought spiral with presence, movement, or breath, you create space for clarity to return. And in that space, you remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the calm awareness beneath them. That's your fastest way out. And it's always available, starting now. Chapter 4. Thoughts are not facts. Reclaiming mental control. One of the most liberating truths you can learn is this. Your thoughts are not facts. They may feel real. They may sound convincing. They may stir strong emotions. But that doesn't make them true. Overthinking thrives on the assumption that every thought that enters your mind deserves attention, analysis, and action. But the reality is that your brain produces tens of thousands of thoughts each day. Many of them distorted, outdated, fear-based, or simply inaccurate. When you overthink, you treat these passing mental clouds as hard evidence. You believe that because you thought something, it must mean something. What if they're mad at me? Becomes, they definitely hate me. I might fail becomes, I will fail and I'm not good enough. The line between imagination and reality gets blurred. But here's the truth that changes everything. Just because a thought shows up doesn't mean you have to believe it. Reclaiming mental control begins with questioning your thoughts instead of obeying them. This doesn't mean fighting every thought. It means observing them with awareness, curiosity, and compassion. Try asking yourself, is this thought helpful? Is it true? Is it kind? Would I say this to a friend? When you examine your thoughts instead of automatically trusting them, you weaken their grip. This is called cognitive distancing, learning to see your thoughts as mental events, not facts or commands. You can even visualize your thoughts as leaves floating down a stream, clouds passing in the sky, or cars driving by on a road. You don't have to chase them or stop them. You just watch them go. This simple shift changes everything. Suddenly, instead of being trapped inside your thoughts, you're standing outside them with perspective and choice. When you remind yourself that thoughts are not facts, you also begin to reconnect with your inner authority. You no longer hand over the steering wheel to every anxious, self-critical, or fear-driven voice in your mind. You begin to respond to life, instead of react to every passing worry. This is true mental freedom, not having a silent mind, but knowing you don't have to believe everything it says. And the more you practice this, the more powerful you become. You start noticing patterns. Ah, this is my "I'm not good enough" story again. Or, there's my catastrophe thinking showing up. By naming these thoughts, you take away their power to control you. You become the observer, not the victim, of your mental world. This chapter is about reclaiming your ability to decide what matters. You don't need to stop every negative thought. You just need to stop worshiping them. You are not your worries. You are not your fears. You are not your past mistakes. You are the calm, wise space behind them, the one who sees clearly, chooses wisely, and acts gently. Overthinking may have tricked you into thinking you were powerless, but now you know the truth. You can observe, interrupt, and replace thoughts. That's how you reclaim control. Not by force, but by awareness. And in that awareness, you return to your true self, steadier, clearer, and finally, free. Chapter 5. From Thinking to Action. The Antidote to Overthinking. Overthinking, Trap Fast, offers one of the most powerful turning points in the book. It explains that overthinking is not just a harmless habit. It's actually a form of mental paralysis that keeps us stuck in our heads, often preventing us from making progress, finding peace, or experiencing real change in our lives. The author breaks down how overthinking feeds on uncertainty, fear of failure, and the desire to find the perfect answer before doing anything. But ironically, the longer we stay stuck in thought, the more anxious and confused we become. The chapter drives home the truth that thinking alone doesn't solve problems. Action does. When we're trapped in our thoughts, we're often trying to control every possible outcome before we take a single step, which leads to procrastination, self-doubt, and missed opportunities. The author introduces the idea that the mind seeks clarity through thinking, but in reality, clarity often comes through action. You don't always think your way into right action. More often, you act your way into clearer thinking. The chapter highlights how many people wait until they feel ready, but that feeling rarely comes. Readiness is often a result of momentum, not a prerequisite for it. This insight is key to escaping the overthinking trap. To illustrate this, the chapter shares relatable examples. Someone anxious about starting a business who spends months researching and planning but never launches. Someone overanalyzing a relationship decision but not having the needed conversation. A student who rewrites their study plan over and over without actually studying. In all these cases, it's not more thought that's needed. It's a willingness to act, however small the action may be. To make the shift from thinking to doing, the chapter offers several practical techniques. One is the 2-minute rule, which encourages readers to immediately act on any task that takes less than 2 minutes to complete, like sending an email, making a phone call, or writing the first sentence of an essay. Another strategy is called thinking time boxing, where you set a timer, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, to think through a problem, and once the time is up, you commit to a decision or take a step forward, even if it's not perfect. The chapter also encourages readers to embrace the concept of imperfect action. Many overthinkers are perfectionists by nature, waiting for the ideal plan or flawless timing. But the truth is, progress doesn't come from perfection. It comes from learning as you go. Taking a messy, uncertain step forward is far more productive than waiting forever to feel 100% sure. An important concept introduced in this chapter is the action muscle. Just like physical strength is built through repetition, your ability to act despite fear, doubt, or confusion is something that gets stronger the more you use it. Every time you choose to act rather than overthink, you reinforce a new mental habit, one based on courage and clarity. The more you build this muscle, the easier it becomes to trust yourself and to move forward, even when you don't have all the answers. Over time, this builds confidence, resilience, and a powerful sense of self-trust. The chapter reminds readers that fear doesn't go away by thinking about it. It shrinks when we face it directly through action. The chapter ends by encouraging readers to reflect on their own overthinking patterns and identify one area in their life where they've been stuck in thought. Then it challenges them to take a single action, no matter how small, within the next 24 hours. This simple yet profound challenge brings the entire message of the chapter into real-world application. It's not about making huge, life-changing decisions overnight, but about breaking the habit of waiting, hesitating, and overanalyzing. When you start to move, even slowly, your world begins to shift. You become someone who takes charge rather than someone who stays stuck. In the end, Chapter 5 serves as both a wake-up call and a roadmap, teaching that the fastest way out of overthinking isn't through deeper thought. It's through courageous, consistent, and imperfect action. Chapter 6. Creating Boundaries with Your Mind. Creating boundaries with your mind is a powerful and eye-opening chapter that teaches readers how to take control of their mental space by learning to set clear, intentional boundaries within their own thinking. While we often hear about setting boundaries with other people, we rarely consider the importance of setting limits with our own thoughts. This chapter explains that overthinking happens when we allow our minds to run wild without structure, constantly looping through worries, what-ifs, and imagined outcomes. Without boundaries, the mind treats every thought as equally important and urgent, even when many are unnecessary, repetitive, or based on fear rather than reality. The author highlights how our brains are designed to protect us, which means they tend to focus on threats, mistakes, and negative possibilities. But just because your brain offers a thought doesn't mean you have to accept it, dwell on it, or allow it to take over your day. That's where mental boundaries come in. They act like filters or fences, helping you decide which thoughts deserve your attention and which ones you need to let go of. The chapter offers practical strategies for building these mental boundaries, starting with the idea of becoming a watcher of your thoughts rather than a victim of them. One powerful method introduced is called labeling your thoughts, where you simply name what kind of thought you're having, like worrying, planning, judging, or imagining the worst. This small act of awareness creates distance between you and the thought, reminding you that you are not your thoughts. You're the one observing them. Another strategy is thought scheduling, where you designate a specific time of day to think through your concerns or make decisions instead of letting those thoughts pop up and hijack your focus at any moment. For example, you might give yourself 15 minutes each evening to write down your worries, and once that time is up, you return your attention to the present moment. This practice teaches your mind that not every thought deserves immediate attention, and that you're in control of when and how you engage with them. The author also emphasizes the importance of mental decluttering, which is the process of identifying recurring thought patterns that drain your energy, such as excessive self-criticism, fear of judgment, or replaying past conversations. By regularly reflecting on these patterns and questioning their usefulness, you begin to clear out mental space, just like you would declutter a messy room. The chapter compares your mental space to a home. If you let everyone in at all times, it becomes chaotic and overwhelming. But when you learn to close the door, say, "Not right now," or simply walk away from unhelpful thoughts, your inner world becomes quieter and more peaceful. Another technique discussed is the use of affirmations and mental redirection. When you notice your mind slipping into an unproductive loop, you gently redirect it by saying something like, "I've already thought about this. It's time to focus on what I can control." Or, "This thought is not helping me right now." These boundary-setting phrases don't ignore reality. They empower you to choose how much attention you give to each thought. By the end of Chapter 6, it becomes clear that creating boundaries with your mind is not about suppressing or denying your thoughts, but about guiding them, choosing which ones serve you and which ones to release. Just like setting boundaries in relationships improves emotional health. Setting boundaries with your thoughts protects your mental clarity and emotional energy. The author reassures readers that learning to set mental boundaries takes time and practice, especially if you've been used to giving every thought your full attention. But with consistency, you can build a healthier relationship with your own mind, one where you no longer feel controlled by your thoughts, but rather you feel in charge of your focus, your mood, and your mental space. Ultimately, Chapter 6 offers a practical, compassionate, and empowering framework to help you quiet the noise in your head, protect your peace, and finally begin living with more intention and calm. Chapter 7. Calm is a practice, not a personality. Calm is a practice, not a personality, is a transformative chapter that challenges a common misconception that calmness is something you're either born with or not. Many people assume that being calm is a fixed personality trait, that some people are naturally relaxed and peaceful while others are just anxious by nature. But this chapter dismantles that belief by showing that calm is not a fixed quality. It's a skill, a daily practice, and a mindset that can be developed over time, no matter your past or personality type. The author explains that overthinking thrives in a chaotic, overstimulated mind, one that's constantly reacting, overanalyzing, or preparing for worst-case scenarios. In contrast, calmness provides the internal space needed to step back, breathe, and respond to life's challenges with clarity instead of panic. Calm doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending everything is fine. It means creating enough internal stillness to handle problems more effectively without being consumed by them. This chapter is all about reclaiming your inner state, showing you that peace isn't something that just happens. It's something you create, moment by moment. To help readers build that inner calm, the chapter introduces several down-to-earth practical techniques. One of the most important is learning to pause before reacting. Overthinkers often feel an urgent need to fix, solve, or respond immediately, which fuels mental tension. But by practicing the simple act of pausing, even for 5 seconds, you begin to interrupt that automatic cycle and create a tiny window of awareness. That pause is where calm begins. The author also emphasizes the power of the breath, especially deep, slow breathing, as a tool to send signals of safety to your nervous system. This isn't just a relaxation trick. It's a way of training your body and brain to stay centered in moments of stress or overwhelm. Other calming practices mentioned include journaling to process swirling thoughts, mindful movement, like walking or stretching, and creating routines that reduce decision fatigue. The idea is to take small, repeatable actions that anchor you in the present, because it's in the present moment that calm can grow. The chapter also dives into the importance of your internal language, the way you talk to yourself. If your inner voice is constantly harsh, worried, or frantic, your mind will mirror that energy. But if you intentionally speak to yourself with gentleness, clarity, and encouragement, your brain will gradually shift toward calm and confidence. This doesn't mean faking positivity, but rather grounding yourself in phrases that reduce urgency and pressure, like, "I can handle this one step at a time," or, "This feeling is temporary, and I've felt it before." The more consistently you practice calm through breath, self-talk, boundaries, and conscious pauses, the more natural it becomes. It begins to replace reactivity with thoughtfulness, panic with patience, and overthinking with presence. The author acknowledges that calm won't always come easily, especially in difficult moments, but reminds us that even those who appear calm on the outside have to work for it on the inside. Calm is not a destination. It's a way of moving through life, and it's available to anyone willing to practice it. By the end of the chapter, readers come to see that cultivating calm isn't about changing who you are. It's about building new habits and tools that help you relate to your thoughts and emotions in a healthier way. Calm doesn't eliminate stress or negative thoughts, but it gives you the power to meet them with strength, steadiness, and perspective. Whether you've lived most of your life in anxiety or feel overwhelmed by today's nonstop noise, this chapter shows you that peace is within reach, not through wishing or waiting, but through daily, deliberate practice. In this way, Chapter 7 is both empowering and hopeful, reminding readers that they're not prisoners of their overthinking minds. They're the architects of their mental world. And calm is something they can choose to build. One breath, one pause, one practice at a time. Chapter 8. Live in the now. Overthinking. Lives in the past and future. One of the most important truths in the fight against overthinking. The mind's tendency to constantly drift into the past or project into the future is the root of most mental distress. The author explains that overthinking rarely happens in the present moment, and instead it pulls you backward into regret, replaying past mistakes or conversations, or it hurls you forward into fear, imagining all the things that could go wrong. This chapter emphasizes that true peace and clarity can only exist in the now, but most people have become so mentally busy that they barely spend any time in the present. We often live in our heads, reviewing, rehashing, worrying, and miss out on what's happening right in front of us. This disconnect not only fuels anxiety and indecision, but it also robs us of life's simple joys, such as a quiet morning, a shared laugh, or even the feeling of being fully at ease with ourselves. The author encourages readers to recognize this mental habit and begin gently but consistently training their minds to come back to the moment. Because that's the only place where life actually happens, and the only place where we have the power to act, feel, and choose. To support this shift, the chapter provides several practical tools to help ground the mind in the present. One of the key strategies is practicing mindfulness, not in a complicated or mystical way, but through simple awareness exercises like nothing, your breath, feeling your feet on the ground, or paying attention to what your senses are experiencing right now. These small acts of presence interrupt the constant stream of mental noise and create space for calm and clarity. The author also introduces the idea of now anchors, everyday activities that you do with full attention, such as washing dishes, drinking coffee, or walking in nature. When done mindfully, these ordinary tasks become powerful tools for returning to the here and now. Another major focus of the chapter is recognizing when your mind is drifting, such as replaying a conversation from last week or imagining how tomorrow's meeting might go wrong, and gently redirecting it without judgment. The author emphasizes that it's normal for the mind to wander, and the goal isn't to eliminate thoughts, but to become aware of them and return your focus to the present over and over again, like a muscle you're training. Additionally, the chapter explains that when you dwell in the past, you often carry shame, guilt, or regret that weighs you down emotionally, while future-focused overthinking tends to bring fear, uncertainty, and pressure. By learning to accept that the past cannot be changed and the future is never guaranteed, you create emotional space for acceptance and peace. The author suggests a powerful mental reframe. Whenever you catch yourself ruminating or worrying, ask yourself, where am I right now? And what is within my control in this moment? These questions can pull you back into the now and help shift your mindset from helplessness to empowerment. The more you build the habit of living in the present, not perfectly, but consistently, the less power overthinking has to hijack your mood, decisions, and inner peace. It's not about ignoring the past or denying the future, but about choosing or stop obsessing over what can't be changed or predicted, and instead focusing your attention on what you can actually influence right now. By the end of Chapter 8, readers are left with a clear, powerful message. The present moment is not only where your life is unfolding, it's where your strength, peace, and clarity live. Overthinking loses its grip when you stop feeding it with past regrets or future fears. You don't need to escape your mind. You just need to guide it home, to the now, again and again. And with each return to the present, no matter how small, you reclaim a little more control, confidence, and freedom. This chapter is both a practical guide and a gentle reminder that your peace is never in the next thought. It's always in this moment, if you're willing to return to it. Final chapter. You are not your thoughts. You are the space they pass through. Brings the entire book to a powerful and liberating conclusion by offering a profound shift in how we relate to our minds. This chapter teaches that one of the biggest reasons overthinking feels so overwhelming is because we wrongly believe that we are our thoughts. When a fearful, judgmental, or negative thought pops into our mind, we identify with it. We believe it reflects who we are or what will happen. But the truth, the author explains, is that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. You are the calm, observing space through which thoughts come and go like clouds passing through the sky. This simple but powerful realization begins to loosen the grip overthinking has on you. Instead of being caught up in every thought, reacting emotionally, or analyzing endlessly, you can begin to notice your thoughts like you would traffic on a busy street, coming and going, sometimes noisy, sometimes repetitive, but not requiring you to chase or control each one. This shift in perspective transforms your inner world, helping you move from a state of entanglement and stress to one of clarity and emotional freedom. The chapter emphasizes that this ability to observe rather than absorb your thoughts isn't something mystical or reserved for spiritual gurus. It's a skill anyone can learn, and it's one of the most powerful tools for escaping the trap of overthinking. The author guides readers to begin practicing detachment from their thoughts by first noticing them without judgment. For example, if a thought arises like, "I always mess things up," instead of reacting emotionally or trying to argue with it, you simply name it. Ah, that's a self-critical thought. Naming creates distance. You're no longer inside the thought, you're watching it. The chapter encourages you to practice seeing your thoughts like passing weather. They can be stormy, cloudy, or calm, but none of them are permanent, and none of them define the sky itself. The sky is you. You are the space, open, steady, and untouched, no matter what kind of thoughts pass through. To support this new way of seeing, the chapter introduces mindfulness and meditative techniques that allow you to rest in the observer seat of your mind. This doesn't mean you have to sit for hours in silence. It can be as simple as pausing during your day to take a breath and ask, what thoughts are passing through right now? Over time, the more you do this, the more you begin to understand that thoughts are just mental events, not facts, not commands, not reflections of your worth or reality. This realization brings profound relief, especially for those who feel weighed down by constant mental chatter. When you stop giving every thought your full attention and emotional energy, you create space. Space for calm, space for joy, space for clarity, and most importantly, space for choice. You realize you don't have to believe every thought, act on every impulse, or fix every imagined problem. Some thoughts can be acknowledged and then simply allowed to pass. The chapter ends on a deeply encouraging and empowering note, reminding readers that while you may not be able to stop your thoughts entirely, you can change your relationship with them. And in doing so, you change your experience of life. You move from being controlled by your thoughts to calmly guiding them, from living in a mental storm to finding shelter in your own stillness. The final message is clear and uplifting. Your thoughts do not define you, limit you, or control you. They are only temporary visitors in the vast, powerful awareness that is you. And when you truly understand this, the grip of overthinking begins to fall away, revealing the peace, confidence, and freedom that has been within you all along. With this final insight, the book leaves readers not just with tools for thinking less, but with a new way of being, one that is grounded, present, and powerfully free from the trap of overthinking.